in the past, what was the toll on you of having to kind of suppress and repress emotions?
I mean, it took a toll on my entire being, in all honesty, and I think it pushed me to absolute breaking point in the end. And I kind of I had some moments in my life that really accentuated that. I had some real serious traumas. I lost a little boy in 2015. He was just under 2 years old, and he died very suddenly. But I noticed the same thing when I was younger. I think I was 16 when my mum died as well, and my reaction was exactly the same. I really needed this outlet, and I really needed to be able to cry, and I really needed to be able to discuss and talk and express this in a way that was healthy. But I didn't. I absolutely went the other way, and I said my life led me, certainly as a teenager, into these constant expressions of rage and anger, and it just pushed me lower and lower and lower and lower and lower, because I was constantly needing this outlet. And I tried everything. I mean, I even went as far in my early teens as being a full-time professional fighter. I went and trained in Muay Thai and was getting hit in the head for a living, because I just had this real real need for outlet, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And I don't think I was ever told don't cry. I don't think my parents ever said, like, oh, man up, don't cry. I don't think those ever words were ever said to me. But there was certainly this idea that I shouldn't. And then after my son died and my wife was breaking, absolutely breaking, it was my job to make sure she was okay and make sure the other kids were still provided for and still go to work and still um pay the mortgage. And that's none of that stopped. None of that stopped. And yeah, I still was living this life with no outlet until it flattened me. It absolutely flattened me. And I had to unpick my entire life to get back to a point where I could even function again. And that all stemmed from the inability to be able to express really anything other than just the fact that I was really angry at the world for a long time as well.
There's also understand, like, as you say all that, that's like a lot, losing your mother, losing a child, you could really feel like God, the world, the universe is like really dealing you a shitty hand, in life. You're working hard, you're looking after your family, and like these things happening, anyone looking from the outside would be like, well, I can understand why this man would be so angry with life, or angry with the world.
Yeah, and I did. I think I had probably 10 years where my whole attitude was, why me? Like, what have
Mm.
I done in a past life, or whatever it could be, and just constantly searching for answers of what the fuck, why, here we go again. And then what you start doing then is, what next? What's going to happen? Because something's going to happen again. Um, so it really sets you up for a fall then, because the moment you're looking for problems, the moment you're looking for what next, what's going to happen next, you create those things anyway. So absolutely, I think that my anger at the time was probably justified, and I think I had good reason for that anger, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it was okay for me either. It doesn't necessarily, the reason isn't necessarily a good excuse. And I think having a reason and an excuse are really different things. And I had to make the decision not to give myself an excuse to be angry. And that took work. That wasn't something that just happened. And genuinely now, I feel like I've learned so much from those moments of grief and for those adversities, that it's made me a better person. So there are elements of me that are truly thankful for my grief and truly thankful for the adversity. And that's not me saying I wouldn't change it in a heartbeat. Certainly, I mean, losing your son is the most horrific thing that can happen to absolutely anyone. I would change that moment. If someone gave me a magic wand to go back in time and change things or whatever, I would take it. But I would definitely be a different person now. And I feel like I'm happy with the person I am now. I'm proud of the person I am now. And that's been shaped by grief and been shaped by adversity. And there's something quite divine in that, actually, that makes me really proud.
Mm. Wow. And it makes me super curious, like, what what has it taught you? What has the grief taught you? Because that's a lot of, yeah, it's a lot of grief. Just hearing it, I'm like, thinking, because I got a little boy, as I said, he's 14 months old, and I, saw my mother even just this afternoon. It's like, to lose them would just be, I wouldn't know where to look in life. So yeah, I'm super curious. Like, from where you're standing now, you're looking kind of back. Like, what's that taught you about, yourself, about life?
Yeah, I mean a lot. But I think the most important thing is, and I hear the same certainly about your child. I hear very often, like, I wouldn't live if my son dies, is a comment I hear all the time. I couldn't survive if I lost my child. And there was a moment that I felt that. There was a moment where absolutely I could have just gone, I'm done, I'm ending this. However, you do survive and you do carry on, and I think all of us have that in us. All of us have this not just strength to carry on, but an absolute primal drive to carry on no matter what is thrown at you. And I think that's actually really quite instinctive for us to survive. And once you accept that you will survive, I think at that point you can then look at how you also thrive, because survival's
Mm,
one thing, and survival is probably the easy bit, and going, well, I'll just carry on and I'll get through life. But I really did learn that I had a true strength in me to push through it and survive and thrive and carry on. And and to start with, I think that was for other people. I don't know if necessarily I did that for myself to begin with. I think for myself to begin with, absolutely giving up would have been the easiest thing to do. However, once I got through this idea that, no, you know what, I've still got other children that need me, I've still got a partner that needs me, and do it for them. I started to find ways to then live life for myself again, and I absolutely had the ability to do that. No matter how many times people have said to me I couldn't survive if I lost my child, I generally tell them, yes, you could, and you would carry on, and the world does carry on, and clocks keep ticking, and the world keeps spinning, and you will as well. And there is, you don't get over it, but you get through it and you learn from it.
mm, yeah. Yeah, the human spirit has like an incredible, determination to exist, to stay, to be, even when in the harshest of conditions. And it's, I guess, as like hearing you say, it's easy to stand from, where I'm now and say, oh, if my son was to pass, that, I could live. But also, in hearing what you're saying and me thinking for myself is, oh, actually, I know that spirit would like really burn and be like, no, and find other meaning and purpose and so forth, even through the hurt and the grief. Um, and and as I say all this, again, another question comes to mind is like, how do you process grief? Because it sounds like in the past your process of grief wasn't necessarily the most effective. It was just like, burning through anger. I guess now with, so much will happen, because I know your ex-wife also passed, and you were, before you were a part-time dad, and now you're a full-time dad of all the boys. There's a grief of, even for your ex-partner, and your son, but also for the life that you were kind of having yourself, as a part-time dad, and having the certain freedoms. There's like all this kind of grief of what never came to pass. So I guess my question is how do you process that grief, and do you kind of still continue to do so?
Yeah, I will always continue to do so. It will never go away. And as you said, even though Zoe, who was my boy's mum, even though she we weren't married anymore, we were divorced, losing that co-parent was still incredible grief. And but most of all, I'm now also trying to teach my boys how to grieve as well, and trying to lead them through grief, and sometimes trying to help them to not make the same mistakes I did with grief. Now, that's, first of all, that's impossible. I can't tell them how to grieve. I can't prevent them from making mistakes. They will make mistakes. They will have that anger. My eldest son is 14, and I absolutely see him reacting in a really similar way to I did when I lost my mum. And I see there's this kind of anger at the world, um, and it's there. And I would love to be able to say to him, don't do what I did, and him listen to me. But I'm his dad. He's never going to really listen to me until maybe he'll listen to me in 20 years time. But for now, I'm just dad. He doesn't want to know. Um, but it's an ongoing process of processing. And i I believe that one of the most important things you can do for that is to talk, and talk very openly, and talk very candidly in the moment as well. So if maybe I'm an oversharer sometimes with everyone, even with my children. If I feel something, if something is affecting me, if I'm in a low period, if I'm not having the best weeks, if I'm having not having the best day, I will say it, and I will vocalize it really, really quickly. And that might just be for myself sometimes, not even necessarily to tell the people around me, oh, you know what, my kids, like, dad's having a bad day, but just to be able to get that out in the world, and to put that out to the universe, and make it real, and make it exist, that grief exists. I think helps me process it more. I went through some really intensive work as well. I did some therapy. I did some EMDR therapy, which was life changing for me. It was basically voodoo magic as far as I'm concerned. They just, I don't know how it worked. There was this kind of eye movement and a lot of processing, a lot of like regressive work involved in it. And I kind of treated it as if I was suffering with PTSD and with trauma from these moments, and it really helped. And I put the hours in to do that. I did kind of 10 hours of EMDR, and continue to push myself through talking therapies, and if that's with a professional, or if that's sat with my 14-year-old son going, dad's having a really bad day, give us a hug. Both of those are still kind of helping me to push through these moments and go through this continuous process of grief that will never ever go away. But I do think it's really important to always say, because I've been asked this similar question before about healing, that processing and healing don't necessarily have to be the same thing. And I think so many of us are
Mm.
searching for a way to be healed, and give up now if that's what you're looking for, because you're not gonna be healed. Healed suggests that there's an end to something, and it's finished and it's better. And I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think you're going to be changed, not healed, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's so easy to, as you talk about there towards the end, about the healing. There's this. I always think of kind of like, you hurt your arm, you cut yourself in your arm, and it kind of heals over, but there's still the kind of remnants. There's still a scar. Sometimes the skin isn't as smooth. Sometimes there's a visible scar there. It never completely goes back to exactly how it was maybe before. It's something new. It has some texture still that's held around the wound. But I think there's so much of our desire, I think, as humans, and maybe as people who have been hurt and wounded, is like for it all to just go away and never, like, for it to disappear. And it's almost this perpetual desire of like, when I'm healed, then I can do X, Y, and Z. When the battle is over, then my life will be perfect to the way I want it to be. And it's just, we never really get there, do we, as people?
No, and you never will, and you'll also never learn anything from it. I don't think, if it just goes away and it's finished, and you're healed and you move on, you're not learning a lesson from that. And I genuinely think that your life can be made better from grief and adversity. I think an easy life doesn't necessarily challenge you in the ways that improve you as a human being. And I think my level of compassion and care and love and openness, I think they're all things that have come from my grief, and they wouldn't exist without it.
Yeah, and that's something that, as men, that kind of compassion and deep feeling is something that we're not kind of taught into, like to go through all that grief that you've experienced. It sounds like it's taught you to, feel very deeply, be able to express and communicate really kind of potently and powerfully, while also be, generating that, I'm imagining, that compassion for yourself, which helps you through the grief, which also allows you to be super compassionate for other people. But these are not the skills that the average man learns for his life because of just, the way that masculinity and the way that boys and men are often raised.
Yeah, and the most important thing I think you said there was about communication, and we're just so shit at it half the time. And that can be in so many ways. I mean, with partners, with family, and we can be so inept at just saying what we think, and saying how we feel, and saying what the problem is, without this desire to fix it all the time as well. There's this constant desire as men that if there's a problem, we fix it. And a lot
Mm.
of problems don't need fixing. A lot of problems can't be fixed. They just need some communication. Again, it's with a partner, to be able to just discuss a problem and accept a problem, a disagreement that you might never agree on. The moment you spend your entire time trying to fix it, you may never fix it, and that problem is going to escalate and escalate and escalate. But just accepting that some problems in your life are problems in your life, some hardships in your life are hardships in your life that don't require fixing, they just require accepting, I think can help you really kind of move through life on so many levels with so many different things. But that does takes a bit of communication, and that communication might be with others or even just with yourself, just having the heart to listen to yourself a little bit and say, okay, what do I need? Where am I at? How do I feel right now? And I think for the most part, we're really shit at that as men. And I have to force myself to stop fixing. Fixing is a big problem for me. I want to fix everything.